the drama in the Abrego Garcia and other Venezuelan Tren member detainees case continues. I'm pretty sure this isn't the final matter in the matter, but the uh, very activist judge in Washington, D.C., that decided that Trump didn't have the power to deport people under the Alien Enemies Act um, as a matter of law, and said that all detainees, district court matters had to be brought in Washington, D.C., and therefore um, they ruled that none of these people could be deported. That whole thing got overturned. So Trinidad members can be deported under the Alien Enemies Act. That is not judicially reviewable as a matter of law. The act itself says it's not judicially reviewable. The president and the executive branch alone gets to decide whether people are alien enemies and whether they can be deported under that act. Judges don't get to interfere under that declaration if somebody is an enemy. So, but that doesn't end the matter, because they still get to bring habeas corpus relief, which is body of the matter relief request in the district court in the area where they're detained. And in this case, Washington, D.C. is where the claims were filed, because all the district court judges there are uber liberal and were likely to grant this petition en masse, so we couldn't deport terrorist, illegal drug cartel members and get them out of our country. So that's what they were doing to us. So what we've got now instead is you can't go to Washington, D.C. and choose a liberal judge. Now, if you're detained, you can bring a habeas corpus petition claiming you're not an alien enemy and trying to prove you're not an alien enemy as a reason for deportation. But ICE has all the other reasons for deportations to use against you. So at this point, the Alien Enemy Act cases remove from the super fast immigration court docket that Trump wanted to do, that says we're going to pick them up and take them out of the country illegally, to a more normal docket where now these guys have to be given notice after detention and kept in the country long enough to file a habeas corpus petition, and for the judge to decide whether that habeas corpus petition is valid or not, and whether that person should be able to stay in the country with legal status. So that's the gist of the matter. But two big things happen in this case that really, really matter to what's going on right now. The first thing that matters is that this case said you have to bring district court matters in the place where detainees are detained, not in the place where they were picked up. This Supreme Court case clearly states that. It's right out in it. You can't go to Washington, D.C. to bring a case. The place for the district court is the place of detention, not the place of residence, not some other court that's likely to be helpful to you. Is the place of detention. This affects that Chicago case we were talking about. So if you're following this, keep following, because this is going to get very interesting. The Chicago case we're following had most of those detainees out of Chicago shipped out of the state of Illinois and out of the Northern District of Illinois into the Western District of Michigan, to where they're at now. And it's interesting because we also have a problem in Michigan, in the Western District of Michigan, because attorneys for these people that are in the Western District of Michigan are applying for habeas corpus in the Eastern District of Michigan, because the immigration court for the whole region happens to be in the Eastern District of Michigan, but it's not an Eastern District of Michigan court. You should watch the piece I had on how the immigration courts work and the ICE and all that, the video prior to this. But that's not the correct district court either, because the detainees happen to be housed in Western Michigan, in the Western District of Michigan. And the interesting thing about that is the Eastern District of Michigan district courts have somewhat liberal judges from a very liberal area where liberal judges were appointed, and the Eastern district courts that they would be applying for habeas corpus to are in the city of Detroit, while the Western District federal courts if they have to apply for habeas corpus in the district in which the detainees are housed, they're going to have to start applying to the Western District Court, which are in Grand Rapids and Traverse City. I'm not sure, depending on where the detainees are detained, whether they have to go to Traverse City for these habeas petitions or they have to go to Grand Rapids for the petitions, but it's drastically different than what attorneys are trying to do right now based on the Supreme Court case. And I'm wondering how far it'll alter it, but it's also very interesting that these habeas petitions now clearly have to be brought in the district of detention, not the district where they came from and all of that. So it's a bit of a mess on that. And there's a couple of other things in here about how the judges and the cases are to proceed. The other thing that happened here is this is another due process case. So detainees are coming into these detention centers, so you know this. They come into these detention centers and they're signing saying they want to leave. And they're signing on a list saying, we want to leave. This is another case that says a detainee has to be detained and receive a deportation order, and then they have to be detained long enough for them to, if they desire, file a habeas corpus petition after their detention order before they can be deported. This is important because not very many people just get to voluntarily leave, because if you've committed any kind of crime or mishap, including crossing the border illegally, you cannot voluntarily leave and get that $1,000 they talk about. You have to get a judicial order in order to be able to leave the country because they want you on the list of people that can't come back without a special application process because you disobeyed our laws to get here. And so these people now that want to leave immediately not only have to get to a immigration court hearing where an immigration court judge that works for the Department of Justice signs a deportation order, but now they have to be held by the facility long enough to make sure they will not file a habeas corpus petition. So this is another case. There's other cases that say that now. They're all going up. This is the first time where the Supreme Court says we have to have habeas corpus petitions allowed to people that have these deportation orders. Before, if they were voluntarily trying to leave, we were just allowed to let them leave. But now we have to have these habeas corpus petitions. I imagine a case will eventually go up to the Supreme Court that says these people have signed voluntarily wanting to leave. Why do we have to hold them the extra 21 days? I'm not sure if that will ever happen because it takes an appeal of some sort to take it up there, and I don't think ICE or the DOJ has any interest of just going up to the Supreme Court and the time and expense of that just to speed the process up for these people by 21 days when they can just detain them an extra 3 weeks and not send them home, which is too bad. I wish we could send them home when they want to go home. If these people in these detention centers could get sent home on the day when they say, I would rather go home to my own country and not have to be held until after all these court hearings, it would be a blessing to them and a blessing to us. But all of these activist lawyers and activist judges keep filing due process claims, and we keep redefining due process to make the length of time that a detainee has to stay in a detention center before being able to leave the country longer and longer and longer. So that's part of the frustration of this process for me when I look at it from a legal standpoint and a chaplain standpoint and wanting to do good by these people. I'm praying over them, wanting to be liberated either to their own country or if they deserve it to our country. But I also want our laws upheld, and I'm looking at these judges and saying, why are you making the process longer and longer with this due process when we have probably 80% of these people that are detained are saying, I don't have legal status, please let me go home. And these judges are making these people stay in detention centers an extra 5, 6, 7, some weeks, sometimes as much as 4 months they have to stay to get this due process claim out of the way because of the judge dockets and how busy the judges' dockets are. So that's my grievance for tonight. And look forward to seeing you some more. Please subscribe to my channel. It'd be nice. I think I'd have more access to more content types and things like that if I could get to this 1,000 viewer, the 1,000 subscribers, and it doesn't cost anything to on Facebook. It costs to subscribe on YouTube here. It doesn't cost to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and then when you come onto YouTube, it'll show you whatever I'm doing lately, and maybe you'll like it. Hopefully you're getting some use out of this. If you watch this far, I really do hope you're getting some use out of this. I'll be continuing on this trend of current events, and it's definitely going to include this ICE stuff because I'm really involved in the middle of it right now. So, man, pray for me, and if you please make comments. I would love to discuss this in the comments because it'll give me ideas for maybe what my next video should be. What I'm hoping is that these are entertaining a little bit, but really just enlightening and educating, and it helps you start a conversation so that everybody understands what's actually going on here. I'm not trying to be too far right. I am very, very conservative, a conservative Christian, but I'm also a chaplain and a very compassionate person. But I do want to see the law upheld. I'm a lawyer also, and a lawyer, an educator, and a pastor. So I've done a lot of stuff, and I'm excited about continuing to provide access to my brain on this matter. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow night.